Una y dos. Y dos. Una y dos. Una y dos.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Cortesnyc Livestream, the podcast, episode 101, Universal Mind.
As always, you can find us on iTunes, Stitcher, Podbean, and Spotify, and on social media on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and on YouTube, where you can see our beautiful faces. Yeah.
This episode, we have a special guest. We have Dopeché. Dopeché is an artist out of Chicago. She is doing beats. She's doing visual art, finger drumming. For all you people listening to me that like to make or into music production and stuff like that, she's actually really good at finger drumming.
It's awesome.
I didn't really realize how good until I started really carefully looking at the video. But she's really actually quite quite fast with the fingers there on the pads. And also her art. She has a page, Dopeché Designs, where she's doing her artwork, posting some of her artwork. But she told some interesting stories. We had a nice conversation with her about maybe some of the beginnings where she started on her visual art and also with her music.
Yeah. So she participated in our art contest. So we wanted to get to know her, and this was a really cool conversation. So stay tuned.
All right, so we have Dopeché.
Yeah.
I'll get used to it.
I know, you'll get used to it. I know. A lot of people always have trouble saying it. There's so many ways. At this point, I'm just, it's fine with everything. I'm fine with everything.
So why don't you just give us one clean one and how you pronounce?
So it's almost like saying dope shit, but without a T. So that's like the easiest way I could tell somebody dope shit.
That's what I said when we were trying to pronounce the name. I was like, maybe it's like dope shit.
Oh yeah.
I know Carla said like that. Come on, man.
The first person.
No, she nailed it. She nailed it. I was like, I don't think that's right. And she was like, no, that's what it is. Right.
Wow, that's awesome.
Where are you out of?
Right now I'm in Chicago.
Okay. Are you originally from Chicago or are you from another area?
Originally from Guam.
Guam, okay.
Yeah, I just recently moved to Chicago, I believe November of last year.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
We said on this interview we were going to start it at 7. We didn't realize Chicago time or New York time. Of course, we came on at New York time, didn't see anybody, and left real quick, quietly. Like, okay, maybe we're talking Chicago time. But we should have cleared that. We should have cleared that up. But okay, so Chicago. So how do you feel? How is it in the Windy City? How are you feeling out there?
It's pretty good. It was, I've been on Guam like my whole life. So this is my second time being in the States. So the winter was my first experience here. So it was pretty crazy. Yeah. But what's even crazier was that it was one of the warmest winter here from what everybody was telling me.
Meanwhile, you're freezing your ass off.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So it was a very interesting experience. From what everybody was telling me, it was like, oh, it's going to go negative degrees. But it never really went to negative degrees, probably like a few days. But after that, it was just like not that cold. But I got used to it. I acclimated pretty good, to the weather.
Carla, when you first moved here, it was in winter. From Puerto Rico.
Yeah, it was snowing. It was crazy.
Oh, really?
Yeah. The day that I got here, there was like a snow. It wasn't a storm, but it was snowing.
Yeah.
So I saw the snow coming down. I was like, well, yeah, this is different.
So you're originally from Puerto Rico?
Puerto Rico, yeah.
Oh, yeah, U.S. territories.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes.
Right there.
You gotta get that clear because some people don't know that.
Don't know that. Yeah, exactly.
So just to touch lightly on it, what's the difference between Guam and Chicago? You see a big difference, or is there like a New Yorkish type community out there, or a Chicago type community out there?
I would say it's pretty big difference, just because I'm used to the island life, it being pretty warm. Definitely I can't really say the hospitality because the people I've met have been really kind to me. But my friends would tell me like, oh yeah, some people could be like a little bit different than what I'm used to. But yeah, everybody I've been meeting is really nice to me lately. So it's just like the weather, it's super windy. It definitely is windy. Yeah. that was a big difference.
And in Chicago, is there a community of people from Guam that you can like connect with, whether food or culturally, or not at all?
No. I mean, I have like some of my relatives here, but as far as like food, Guam food here, no. Yeah, not a lot of people know where Guam is from. I know I went to, because I interned at a studio, and when my mentor was introducing me to everybody, and he said, yeah, she's from Guam, and then one of them goes, wow, you speak really good English. And I was like, yeah, English is our first language on Guam.
Oh my God. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. See, so, and then he apologized. He was like, okay, that was ignorant on my part. I was like, it's okay. Nobody really teaches about, the U.S. territories in America. So it's all right.
Yeah.
What is the music out in Guam? I mean, because you're into music also. I see you do a lot of music production. So like, what is the music style out there? Or what's the traditional or trendy music?
Honestly, everything. I would say the same as America. They have like a community for live music. Live music is really popular. And then they also have a hip hop community too as well. That one's also popular. Yeah, so I would say it's a variety of different music. Yeah, mostly like westernized too.
Okay.
Nice.
Let's talk about why we're here. We're here because we are discussing this piece of art that you made, this amazing piece of art. For the On My Mind art challenge. It was going to be initially a contest, but then we decided, all right, we got 2 participants. We're not going to make a contest out of that. So I figured I would highlight the 2 artists that participated and let's keep going with it. And get to know you guys also, because that's a big plus for me, is really to get to know new people on there.
Oh, yeah.
So let's start with this. Your illustration was interesting. It was definitely a different take, and that was the whole point of this, was to see how somebody else might interpret a piece of music that I made. What was your approach with the music? Like, how did you get into finding this visual?
Man, it took me a while to get to it, just because for me, I like things to happen organically. Sometimes it happens like right before a deadline. So this one was one of those experiences. I know when I was listening to your track, it just brings me to like a whole new dimension. Like it's not what I'm used to. So I was just thinking, I was like, man, should I try to get into your mind and see what you're thinking, or should I kind of portray what's on my mind when I'm listening to it? So that's where I kind of went off from. And it was so funny because I was watching Joe Rogan's podcast with Elon Musk. And one of the questions Elon Musk asked was, when do we, because they were talking about consciousness, and he goes, where do we draw when something's unconscious to something conscious? Because, our thoughts it's never really an original thought. Mm-hmm. It always stems from something else. So that I thought was so interesting. So it's like, when do we have a conscious thought? When is it something that's original? So that's what inspired me to make that piece that I did for On My Mind. So cool. Yeah, it was pretty crazy. I was just like, man, just imagining going out of the box. I was like, man, what if our brain was like a UFO and really he's not really, in his own dimension. He's really just in one conscious. And then you see people, you see people who are watching him, and they're so used to it. They're not even conscious, but they don't realize like, whoa, somebody's actually getting abducted by a brain. But they're just chilling there, just like, yeah, it's whatever.
I like that, so there's 2 things that it makes me think of. Number one, it makes me think of how many times I've been tasked with the challenge of like, yo man, you do art? Oh, that's dope. Do me a logo. I want a brain sucking up a guy, but the brain has headphones on, and then at the same time, everybody in all of New York, all the boroughs are looking up the brain. And the dude from the Bronx, because I'm from the Bronx, I want him to have a crown. I'm like, and this is a logo. I'm like, really? Your logo's gonna have all this? So it makes me think of that, because it's got that trippiness of like layers of symbolism, which is cool. I mean, I think that's definitely also in the music, because the music is layers of symbolism. You got, some lo-fi, you got some hip hop, you got a little bit of, with the vocals, you have some layering in that. So there's layers of like interpretation there of symbols of cliches, right? Sure. And then, but then also, I think you picked this like lo-fi kind of vibe. I don't know if it was consciously or not, but it feels lo-fi in that it's cartoony but retro. You get the little starburst.
The style.
Yeah, the style with
yeah.
the little starburst. And cloud. It's all like retro, but then it's modern. You know, it's modern.
Yeah.
So that's kind of cool.
I appreciate it. Yeah, it's almost like a comic. I think my style is more like, I just like comic style for some reason. Vintage comic kind of.
Yeah, no, it definitely has that. I mean, because you could have gone super slick, or you could have gone, another direction. But I think that's pretty cool. I mean, the other thing that I really liked about it was your composition. I mean, speaking from an artistic standpoint, perfect composition for a cover. It's perfectly centered. You got, one brain, one guy, the pyramid shape, the 3 people on the bottom. So you're using numbers, the horizon, all that kind of, all this elemental stuff is like well composed for that. You know what I mean? It fits the mold perfectly. And then when I was looking at it, I was totally identifying with the person getting sucked up.
Yeah. That's how we feel, I think, when we're in our mind. It's kind of like I'm not even conscious of everybody else, but what I'm thinking of.
Yeah. So
exactly.
That's really dope. What's in his hand, or the person's hand?
Oh, because I got that one.
Oh, the SP.
Yeah, the SP 404. Yeah,
I didn't even notice that.
Because I wanted to put something of you, into the cover, because I remember seeing your dope cover for your album of tracks, and then I was like, I'm gonna put something that he can kind of relate to, so I thought it'd be cool. He has this this guy up.
That's dope. I didn't even notice it.
Me neither. Now I zoomed in and I was like, wait, what?
Oh man, layers in there. That's pretty awesome. That's really awesome. I really appreciate it, and I appreciate your participation in this. I've done, I don't know how long you've been following us for, but we've done contests in the past years ago where we were doing lives, every night, maybe every once a week, right?
Yeah, once a week.
And we would do it for 4 hours a night, live, and we would have live chats and everything, and I'd be drawing while we were communicating with the people. It was a lot easier back then to do a contest because we were constantly in contact with people, that it reminded people and it kept the buzz going. So if we did a contest, we would have, maybe 10 people, 20 people, participate. This time it was a learning lesson that, we're not doing things live anymore. So now it's a little harder to have that connection with people. But I'm glad you participated. How did you come across my venue, whether it's the live stream or my own page?
Oh man, it's such a funny story, because I remember watching your YouTube videos when I was still in school, and it's so funny because I love drawing, right? And I think back then we didn't really have internet, so we didn't have phones where we could watch internet. So, unfortunately, but I used to skip school and watch your videos. It's just so funny. The one that I remember was when you would just freestyle on your black book, and I was like, man, dude, this guy is so good. So I would always just that's the time when I was really trying to work on my style. So I don't know if you could see my graffiti style. I kind of took down some of my art stuff with my graffiti, but when I do post it up, you probably might see some of your essence of your style. I was so inspired yours. I was like, oh man, I love those edges, so I'll try to do that.
the sharp tips, yes. Yep.
Yeah, especially the way you do your C's, and then I don't know, it's just the lettering was just, it all came together really nice, Cortez. I was like, oh.
Of course you would steal my C because you had the letter C.
So that was really dope. I was like, man. And then I saw you on TikTok, and I was like, oh my gosh, because I'm not really that on. I'm on social media, but I don't stay on so much to really see so many things. But this one time I just was on TikTok and I just saw you posting, and I was like, oh my gosh, I remember this guy.
Okay, now I remember. Yeah.
So that's when I started following you.
Dope. Okay. Yeah, I've been online for years now, and it's become just lifestyle. It's just become. It's. If you were to meet me in person, you would meet a whole different side of me. But But because I have spent so much time online in different platforms, that already has a life of its own. And your story is not unusual. There's a lot of people I've gotten comments of people saying like, hey, I've been following you since, I was 10. I've been following you. I grew up on your videos. My pops used to put these videos on for me, things like that. And I'm like, okay. I sound like an old man. I sound ancient.
It's so funny. Man, but you inspired so many people though. That is so awesome. You're like, you were on the internet before it was really like a big thing now. So it's just so dope to see it. It's like nostalgia for me.
That's cool. So let me ask you this. So how did you get into visual art? Like you were just saying you learned some from me, but what else were you studying, or did you?
No, I think. Oh no, I was just like, I think the most I would ever do was just doodle in class. But I took a long break. Once I graduated high school and finally got like a 9-to-5 job, I kind of took a break on music and on drawing. And then I recently, I think about 2018, I quit my 9-to-5 and I started to pursue like my music and my art. So that's something now that I'm doing. Yeah.
That's really awesome. And as far as the medium that you're using, it looks like you might have been using markers, but I could also be being fooled and it might be digital. Like, what do you do?
Oh yeah, that's digital. All of those, yeah. It's the
that's
brushes.
Awesome then.
Yeah.
That's awesome because it looks like paint.
It looks,
like markers
like paint, markers, or even pencil, and then.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then also like I put layers on top of it too to make it look like that.
That's really
that
really
looks
cool.
amazing.
Now you just scored extra points in my eyes, right?
Yeah.
You fooled an expert. That's
Yeah.
really good.
Appreciate that.
So your digital work, what are you working in? Are you working on Procreate, or are you working in Photoshop?
I work on Procreate and Illustrator. So like Procreate is so convenient because you can just do that on the go, and then once you have a draft, you just shoot it over to Illustrator and then just work from there. Yeah. So mostly Procreate, I would say.
Yeah, I like Procreate a lot. I've been exploring it more, and there's the animated video that I did just now. I did it all in Procreate. I didn't believe that it could do it.
That is so cool.
I almost destroyed that little thing because I work in the iPad Mini, and I just sat here just doing all the artwork, and then doing some of the animation and all that in there, and exported everything, and then brought it into Photoshop just to clean it up, like to adjust the contrast.
Wow.
Really,
that must be a lot of layers.
Well,
a lot of layers?
I took chances and merged a lot of layers that I shouldn't have, really, but I took chances and merged them. You start to play a little bit like a skateboarder. You start learning the tricks and saying, okay, I can get away with merging these layers. I'm risking a lot, but all right, let's merge them and keep going. And you you hope you don't paint yourself into a corner. But I love it. I think there's a lot of positivity in that app. But lately, what I bought a Cintiq for my desktop computer, which is like the drawing tablet. Which I had been saving up to do that, and now I'm kind of juggling between the two, between working on the iPad with Procreate and now going back to Photoshop again and using the tablet, and I'm kind of juggling both because I did find that I pushed the iPad a little too far. Like it quit on me a few times, it froze, it did some things that got me nervous, and I was like, I can't do that.
Man. Yeah, my iPad does that to me too.
That's good on one piece, but if you're doing a project that you're working, let's say with multiple images, like a video where you have one scene and another scene and another scene and another scene and another, and then you don't want to jeopardize the continuity. So it's a little trickier. That's when I realized this is not meant for big projects. This is like a one-shot illustration kind of program, not a big project like that. But
that's so true. But it's great for like music though, when you're trying to do album art covers.
I know, and also I mean, talking about music, like the greatest thing about that little iPad Mini is I actually did a rough cut of the video in the iPad, all done. Like I did a rough cut of all the scenes, the animated scenes, the still scenes, and I had my music in there, so I put my music in there, and I used iMovie in the iPad, and I edited it. So I'm sitting in my pad, I'm like, I did all this video like right here on this iPad. I can just export it. This is amazing. I'm like, this is incredible.
Honestly, the iPad, dude, it's amazing. There's like even some producers that solely just work on the iPad, and they get like placements with big artists, It's pretty crazy. The
Yeah.
iPad is awesome.
Let's talk about your music. So have you experimented with the iPad, or are you like more, I see that you work more, you like the finger drumming, you're working more with the Akai, right?
Yeah. I actually started on the iPad. I started finger drumming on the iPad, and then I got an MPC for Christmas, and then I started playing around with that.
Nice.
Playing around, but you're not playing around.
Yeah.
You're killing it. You're not playing around.
Yeah, it's mostly just freestyle and just top of the head. That for me, it works the best. But now I'm trying to learn how to just arrange my music and just like let it be.
Okay. How did you get into that? Like I have not been. I've done some finger drumming, but the SP's not. It's not really that great for that.
Oh yeah.
Something in the buttons just doesn't. You can do it, but it just doesn't hit me right. How did you get into the finger drumming? How did you get into all that kind of community?
I don't know if you're familiar with A-Rap music.
No.
He's a producer. I think he's based off of New York, if I'm not mistaken. He was one of the first finger drummers, at least to me, because I stumbled upon his video on YouTube, and then I just like religiously just kept watching his videos, and I used my iPad and I just kept trying to copy what he was doing. Yeah, and then that's how I got into it.
And so, do you think the Akai is? Would you recommend the Akai, or do you think I should upgrade? What do you think?
Yeah, man, I love the Akai for MPC, like chopping up samples. It's especially the live and the touch. It's very convenient. I've seen people chop up. I don't know if you're from. Do you also chop samples like old records?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So yeah, it's so convenient, at least for me. So because you can just pretty much find a sound you like it and then press a button, it chops it for you. Versus trying to find areas where you want to chop it at and just keep playing it and then you find it. Yeah. So the MPC is convenient, very convenient.
Okay. Yeah, I've seen that. Have you looked into like, so let's talk a little bit about those gadgets. I've gotten looking into the, what is this? There's a Machine Plus now. There's the Electron. Is there an Electron? There's Electron's another one, I think.
I'm not too familiar with that. I only know the Machine though, for sure. That was another one. I did almost get into that, but for some reason, the machine that I bought, there was something wrong with it, so I had to return it, and then I just stick with my Akai. So now I'm just strictly just a Akai for MPC.
Cool. Yeah. What's your inspirations when you do that? Like, how do you pick the right theme or samples to chop up? Like, where do you start? Where do you start a beat?
Man, that's a good question. Usually it takes a lot of patience. You have to listen, because I know some people who chop samples, especially from songs, they get impatient and they just keep changing the song, trying to find something. Like, you really have to just listen to the whole song, because you might find something you really like. So that's what I do. I put time aside in my day and just listen to a whole bunch of songs and just kind of feel out what I like. Mostly vocals. I really like vocals. There's something about vocals that I like. So I listen out for that too.
What's your go-to source material? Is there like a certain genre that you definitely look for?
It's mostly like jazz and soul. Mostly I always go from like the 1965s at the latest to about like the 1980s. But lately I've been trying to experiment and sample like music from now, trying to see where that goes.
I like what you do with your beats. They definitely have a consistent aesthetic. They don't sound frivolous. Like, you're not just chopping stuff just to chop stuff. It sounds purposeful. That's why I was curious if you have a goal in mind, like a certain type of source material to achieve a certain type of sound.
I don't know. It's kind of funny because a lot of people ask me that too. Like, they would ask me like, how did you get your sample to make it say that, like that phrase? And I was like, I don't know. It just kind of came together like naturally. So a lot of the things that I do, it's really just organically.
Yeah, I look at so I do a little sampling, right? But I try to, for my music, because I've been doing. I mean, the truth of the matter is, I've been doing music for years. I've always played guitar, and I've always played bass and things like that, right? My father used to play guitar and sing. growing up. So that was always around. But the idea of music production, I got into it when I got my first Mac back in like 99, 98, 99. And that was just experimenting, like, they say you can make music on a computer, so I guess I'll try to make music on a computer. I don't know, that's what they say. And then you start getting into it. But I really started taking advantage of what I learned about music production was once I got on YouTube, because I went on YouTube and my first videos, I actually was just like, let me just do black book videos. I love doing black books. I wasn't even thinking about getting famous. I was just like, it's a place for me to put black book videos, and for me, I just want to have black book videos up because I like black books, and why not document that? So I was actually cutting my first 3 or 4 videos. I was cutting it to like Wu-Tang beats and the RZA and Queens of the Stone Age rock music, anything I liked. I didn't think about copyrights. There was no talk about that. So my first videos lasted about a year and a half and got traction. And then suddenly that year was like, copyright videos, that's an issue.
I remember
my videos
that.
my videos were being muted, and I was like, oh shit, this is a fucking problem. Because if I was actually getting some traction, which I never thought I would, and then I was like, now what am I gonna do? And then they had this thing where you could swap out and use their music. They were giving you suggestions, and their music was so bland that I was like, yo, I can come up with better music than this. I was like, I could even do better than this. This is not gonna fly. And I remember even back then, I had reached out to different rappers, because I'm in New York and I'm growing up I grew up here, so I know like DJs and stuff. Like there was a big DJ, DJ Camilo. He used to be on Hot 97 and all that. So he had these other rappers and people there was people around that were like starting out and kind of like trying to break out of New York, right? So I remember back then approaching some people and saying like, hey, I have my YouTube videos. If you guys can throw some music my way, blah blah blah, whatever. Nah. Nowadays everybody's streaming and giving away the music.
Exactly.
Back then it was like, nah.
Exactly.
Record deals only, and this and the other. So I was kind of pushed into it. I kind of like out of necessity was forced to make music, but I didn't want to sample. That was my thing. Even though I knew how to sample, I didn't want to sample because I just didn't want any of that copyright crap to happen.
Yeah.
So that's where I pushed myself harder, and I started learning more keyboard playing, more about chords and melodies and all that. I got deeper into the guitar. I got deeper into the bass. I just got deeper into it. To the point where I can actually make a complete song from beginning to end, melodies, everything, and sample myself, resample myself, but still it's all original stuff. And like for example, in this album that I just put out, I was imitating things from Mobb Deep, things from Lost Boys, things from like the music that I grew up in my teenage years. I was imitating those bass lines, imitating those things, but mixing them up in a way, reconfiguring them in a way that it's original, so we didn't get flagged.
Okay, I see.
So kind of like sampling, kind of like stealing, basic concepts of old hip hop, but redoing it. All the drum beats, I'm sampling a piece of a snare, and then just using that snare, that kick, and then making the pattern myself, and then taking that whole pattern, filtering it, and using it like a sample, so that it just nothing goes back to anywhere. It's all basically made from scratch. So that's the process on that, but it's out of necessity. It's just out of the fear of having, some nonsense suddenly trigger, a flag somewhere, and then I'm like,
no, I totally understand. That's actually what I'm learning now, like getting more in touch of like just playing instruments and getting more comfortable with it. Like now I'm just really studying music theory and just the basic of just everything.
What you're doing, you're finding some theories in there, and you're sampling. I mean, you're chopping it up enough that it's
pretty much.
You're creating your own melodies and your own rhythms in there. It's interesting.
I've seen people also like one trick you can do, and I've seen other producers do it, is like you could like play with a sample, and then you put enough instruments on it, and then just take the sample out, and it's pretty much your track.
Exactly.
Exactly. Like Carla, we've been working with Carla with her music now. We're trying to finish up her album. And
nice.
Yeah, and it's more like a Latin pop kind of album. It's got like a lot of reggaeton influence and
Afrobeat, yeah.
A little bit of trap, like because there's a lot of like Latin trap now. So just a little bit of trap, a little.
Yeah,
bit of
that's really popular. That's really popular in the studio that I intern at.
So we're trying to finish our album, and even in doing that, we're finding ourselves going to source material to find melodies and pull things out, but then doing it ourselves, recreating it, and finding how do we make it our own. And it's been an interesting journey.
Yeah, kind of like finding references and then working it to our style. But it's always interesting because there's things that you think that you cannot do, or they sound very specific to a style, and then you put it to the style of music that you're doing and it works, and it's just
no, for real, it is. So how is the Latin pop community there in New York? Is it like really big?
Yeah, I'll say it's big. I mean, here I've had more interaction with like live musicians, Latin live musicians. So what they do is like more covers of songs, like traditional Latin music, like salsa and boleros and stuff like that. They also do Latin jazz. The other artists that I had interaction with that they do like distribute their music, it's more kind of like soul, R&B type of vibe. They're singing English. So I think that for Latin pop, the big community is in Miami right now. But here in New York, it's kind of like more urban. It's still that hip hop. Like I know hip hop artists that are Latinos and they're doing hip hop here in New York. But yeah, it's interesting because now Miami is like really the house of like reggaeton, trap, and then Latin pop. Like whomever wants to really be around the producers and do collabs and stuff like that, they're over there in Miami. Yeah.
Oh, okay, nice.
Yeah.
So tell me about producing music. You're telling me that you're interning. What's that all about?
Right now I'm just interning. Currently doing more of like recording engineering.
Okay.
We're also like training my ears because I've been doing the whole live beat making for a long time, but I've never really got to know the basics or really train my ears or really learn the basics or foundation of music. So that's really solely right now what I'm interning, and then also just meeting people, networking, and just seeing how like the studio and how the music industry just runs. So it's very interesting. Definitely like not what I expected. So it's pretty cool.
That is cool.
Yeah.
I mean, I think my other questions are going to be more about a little bit about your background, if you don't mind me asking a little more and prying a little bit more.
Oh no, go ahead. Yeah, totally.
So what was life like growing up in Guam, or where you came from? Like, how did you end up getting into like, let's say, hip hop? Like,
oh, okay. I mean, that's a good question. My dad's actually a DJ, so he's more like a mixer. So I grew up really like just listening to music from him because I'd just be in the room and he's just mixing everything and replaying the same song over and over. Yeah, I used to hate it, but then later on, I would just draw while he would just mix, and then I got so used to it. And then later on, he kind of evolved and started making music. So that's how I kind of got influenced. But I never got that interested to where I was like, oh, I wanna do what you're doing. It always was kind of like, just brushed off like, oh yeah, my dad's a DJ, it's cool. But then later on down the line, I started to get more influenced by it, I guess you can say. I guess the people that I was hanging out with, they were into hip hop, and then I started to kind of get into it. But I would say mostly like graffiti. I feel like the graffiti part kind of brought me into that world of hip hop, if that makes sense.
Yeah. I mean, I don't really know about graffiti from Guam. Is there a graffiti scene out there?
Oh yes, definitely. There's a pretty good scene of people who write back home. There's there's a clothing brand, or they're called Opaque. they supply the cans. So like big shout out to them because we didn't have cans. We were using like Krylon.
Yeah.
And so yeah, I finally got some real, caps and some what is it? Montana cans. So yeah, it was like, oh my God, thank you, Lord. The Krylon, like I hated those caps. You would spray. Oh my gosh. And then you use the Sharpie markers. Oh my God, the Sharpie markers would just bleed everywhere. It was terrible. But you just work with it, growing up.
You're talking about my entire career right there.
The Krylon?
Yeah, man. When did I started using Montana like in the 2000s already. Back once it was like 2000, 2005. I started using Montana.
Yeah.
I was using Carla that whole time. It's a hard lesson to learn how to use those and get anything of value.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
so true.
That's crazy. So there is a graffiti scene. I gotta look into it. Now you got me curious.
No, we gotta go to one.
Yeah, absolutely. We gotta take a trip onto one.
Yeah, I think we also had like a powwow Guam. I'm not sure if you guys are familiar with the powwow movement.
No.
Yeah, like a whole bunch of artists, like they just travel around the world. And we had one where some big artists came to Guam and then they were just like putting up murals.
Oh, that's nice.
So,
that's awesome.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
the art community is pretty big back home.
In Puerto Rico also, they started a couple of years ago to have like a festival. It was called Santurce Slate, one of the cities in Santurce. And then they'll invite also artists, they'll paint around the island, and then they'll do different styles. So it wasn't just graffiti, but they'll do, brush work and everything.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's so
cool.
dope. Yeah, that's exactly the same thing back home, the powwow. It was like people were doing different types of style. It wasn't just spray cans.
Right.
So did you do
That's cool.
walls?
I tried. There was a point in my life where I tried doing spray cans, but my can control I didn't work that. I guess I wasn't really consistent. After I kind of got it, I did this one small. I got like plywood and I put it together, and I would just spray on that. But yeah, I kind of like gave up because my finger would just cramp and it would always like clog up. I'd keep having to change my caps and I'm just like spraying and I'm like, man, why is it? Because I'm learning this all on my own.
Yeah.
I'll go on YouTube and I'll try to figure out like, why is my cap keeps clogging? Yeah, it was like so frustrating for me.
Oh man. That's my pain. I hear you. I hear my pain right there in your words.
Yeah.
Okay. So now as far as the music, do you think you might be putting together some sort of album or something like that? Have you done that, or are you just kind of like?
No. I haven't. Not yet. It's actually, I guess it's something in the works right now. I'm really just concentrating on learning. And right now I'm just kind of building up my catalog of music at the moment.
Okay.
And yeah, so I'm pretty sure in a couple of months I'm going to start putting out more content, especially with music, because that's solely what I'm trying to concentrate now on.
Have you ever done any or are you into doing like tutorials and things like that? A lot of people that are into finger drumming do tutorials, they do reviews, they do things like that.
Oh yeah, a couple of people asked me for that too, for tutorials. Maybe in the future, yeah, for sure. But I don't know if I'm a great teacher to be teaching that. I'll just be like, you just know, you just gotta feel it. You gotta feel it. Like, I don't know how you're supposed to teach that.
Yeah, I came across that also. A few years in, people started messaging me, tutorials, why don't you explain what you do, why don't you and I was like, I don't know if I'm a teacher, I don't know if I can do that. And when I finally sat down and started writing some of the ideas down, then I was like, yeah, it's good, but I personally didn't feel like I was getting anything. I was like, I don't know.
Yeah, no, I feel you. Yeah, I totally understand where you're coming from, because I feel exactly the same way.
All right, well listen, so Dopeché, this was awesome. It was awesome getting to connect with you, and thank you so much for participating in this. Dopeché, where can people find you?
Right now, it's just on Instagram.
Okay.
It's at Dopeché, Dopece 1, Dopeché 1.
And your artwork is on?
Oh yeah, my artwork. Oh my gosh, I forgot. I just recently made that. It's at Dopeché Design.
Cool. And I look forward to see some of your graffiti on there. You got
Yeah.
some letters that you want to share with the world.
Oh yeah, man, it was such an honor to do this piece, and honestly, like I loved it because it challenged me. It was one of my first instrumental piece because I'm so used to playing with words. So, thank you, and man, it's so cool because I got to finally meet you. Like, man, I used to watch you on YouTube, so it's like it's crazy how like everything just comes back full circle.
Full circle.
Like, whoa.
That's cool. That's cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, so let's stay connected, all right, and keep making art. And we'll
All
be
right.
all right. Another episode in the bag. What a fun episode! That was actually a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Actually,
It's always great to meet new people and know their stories and see how they connect to yours. So that was a really cool conversation.
Yeah, I think the part that took me off guard was a reminder. Again, I know that I had that conversation online with Dopeché before, but to be reminded that the connection was from old YouTube videos.
Yeah.
And that to see that would inspire somebody that I personally, now I'm being inspired because I'm seeing the art that they're creating and I'm seeing the music and the visuals and I'm like, wow, like this person
very
is
impressive.
really good.
Yeah.
So I think that's the universal mind coming together. We're all connected.
That's
in
right.
One big giant mind. That we
It's
don't even
full
realize it.
circle. Yeah.
But all right, so this was great. Thank you, Dopeché. Thank you also, D-Menace, for your participation in this On My Mind art challenge. You guys out there, if you haven't heard the song, I'm gonna play it for you right now. On My Mind, you can find it everywhere. Cortesnyc, Spotify, YouTube.
Amazon Music, YouTube Music, iTunes, Apple Music, Deezer, Tidal. It's everywhere.
All right, guys, enjoy.